Hey, Cheat, how you doing?
Not bad, Cyrus. How about you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. So today let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus and how it's affected the entertainment industry as a whole.
Okay, sure.
It's been something that's affected pretty much everyone, right?
Yes, everybody.
Even as we've been launching our business, it's really affected us with our ability to be able to network, go out and meet people, and just try to, seek wider opportunities.
Yeah, can't even go to a comic book convention to do any basic promotion.
It's a really big disappointment. But if you even look at it from our perspective, it's affecting people way bigger than us in a far worse way.
Yes.
If you look at Disney, for example, they had to close their cruise lines. They had to close their actual parks. And then trying to put out movies is just really difficult.
Yeah, very, very difficult. I think a lot of the production is still shut down.
Right.
And I think the movie industry is going to take a major hit from this.
Yeah, I don't see them recovering, and I see streaming services actually growing in this time period.
It's interesting because I think even right before the coronavirus started, there is already a war between streaming services and Hollywood.
Exactly
right. Places like Netflix is kind of getting more and more power. So is Amazon and Hulu. And Disney, of course, will join in on that too with Disney Plus. But I think the coronavirus really kind of is the turnover point.
Yes.
Where you're going to see streaming service get more and more powerful afterwards, even when everything comes back.
Well, it's given them a really great opportunity to show why they're more useful in today's market. Even if you look at famous directors and actors, they're actually taking their talents to these streaming services now.
Yes.
Where beforehand, the only way in which you could be a legitimate person in Hollywood is you'd have to go to a big studio.
Yes.
But now the studios have really flipped in the relationship.
Well, not only that, the only thing I think people actually talk about, even just on social media, is once the next thing coming out on Netflix, stuff coming out on Amazon, or even I think Shudder. I see a lot of promotion recently on YouTube.
Well, the quality of the shows has just really gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite shows are Ozarks. Season 1, 2, and 3 are a masterpiece. I can't say enough good things about that show.
Sure.
Or even my wife just got Apple Plus the other day. Or is it Apple TV? Is that what it's called? Right?
I think so.
And she's loving everything on there. And so, if you have good content on your streaming platform, people are more than happy to come see it because it's a good value proposition.
Well, I think that's just the way technology has been driving us toward. The coronavirus is kind of just, almost as a shut-off gate for Hollywood to put out movies. Because here's the truth. I mean, after not even checking in on movie showtimes and all that stuff, where you can say, okay, I want to go see a movie this weekend, you begin to not even, let that be part of your consciousness anymore. You're not even thinking about, oh yeah, I want to go check out a movie anymore.
Right, makes sense. Another interesting example of this is what it's done to the comic book industry. They've been in real trouble for the past few years simply because they've had a distribution problem, which has really rippled all the way back up the process and actually affected their ability to be able to create comic books.
Yes.
But now that they can't easily disseminate them to all of the different stores, that's even made a bigger reason for why the comic book industry is in trouble. Yeah,
comic books should have made the jump to digital over a decade ago.
Right.
And they never really seized the opportunity. I mean, they're not keeping up with any other form of entertainment. Videos, movies are being streamed online. Music is being streamed online. Anything you can think of. Even personal little channels on YouTube is popping up left and right. Podcast is another one. And comic book, which used to be a dominant part of entertainment, cheap entertainment that you can just walk into, your local grocery stores, whatever, and buy one of these. They're harder to find. They're actually making themselves, really difficult for a consumer to purchase.
Well, why do you think they haven't made the shift over properly?
I think the people in charge of the industry was not really understanding how the digital industry worked. Because when I worked at Marvel back then, the people who were in charge were much older people, guys in their 40s and 50s. And if some of them are still in power, or the people that they promoted are just an older generation, they grew up reading that book in their hand and they feel like they need to have it print on paper. While everything else, when they needed to switch over, they switched over.
Right. I think that's sort of similar to the talk where people are trying to figure out whether you should have physical discs for video games or whether you should be able to buy things online. And I think the correct answer is both.
Yes.
I feel like they need to work in tandem with each other rather than it being this or that.
Yeah. Well, I think the industry has tried, But overall, there's never been a very smooth delivery system. There's no distributors managing all this stuff. There's Comixology, you go there, but it's kind of a mess. Right. There's so many books out there from back then till now. Marvel subscription itself is they have like hundreds and hundreds of books. That's dates back to the 60s. Another problem is, sure, you can get these things to people, but they're very hard to digest is another issue.
Well, they don't letter it properly. Lettering for when you're reading it in your hand
that's
is very different
too.
Than when you're trying to read it, on your tablet or on your small phone. The way in which you naturally see it is different. And I think the major reason why they're having difficulty is that they're not making it for these actual platforms. When you're trying to read the book and you can see both pages at the same time, visually it comes across very differently than if you're just looking at one page at a time. Yes,
well, that's kind of what we've been doing over our books, is to I think mostly make the font size bigger, easier to read.
Yes,
and I don't do really what they call double page splashes, where you have when you open up a book, you have 2 pages lined up, you see a giant image. Most of it is I just kind of keep it and trim it down to one single image on a page. And that's because, due to what we see in our statistics, there's more people reading our books on the cell phone than on the computer screen. So you have to understand where these numbers are coming from. I honestly don't think the people in charge of the comic book industry even think about stuff like that. And it's frustrating, because they still pour millions of dollars into those businesses. I mean, even IDW, talk about how they're just, so certain parts of their subsidiaries to try to raise more money to keep themselves alive. And it's just mind-boggling, when there's still so much money poured into it, but nobody's trying to pour money to solve the problems of not getting these products into people's hands more easily, but they just keep pouring into content creation. And content creation is another problem that's piling up too. Producing stuff that I think, one, that maybe the public don't really care that much about anymore, or two, that are, let me look at IDW. They're all selling like older properties, G.I. Joe, Transformers dating back to the 80s, and they actually have less and less their own unique, independent books that they're creating.
Right. And one of the things that you have to consider with the coronavirus is that it's making it harder for people to come together to start organizing the books. And so the rate at which they're putting them out is just really dropped. It's plummeted.
Really dropped, because that starts from distribution. They can't distribute the books. They can't distribute it. They can't get the money. Can't get the money. Can't pay the company. Can't pay the company. Can't pay the workers. It's just that the chain is backflowing on that.
It's a big backup right now.
Yeah, and that's something what they really need to figure out is how to distribute books, which is kind of what we've been focusing on. How can we get it to people's hands and and just make them read it?
Right.
I think that's kind of what they got to do right now. Comic books also have the problem being too expensive, ranging from $3.99 to $4.99 sometimes. With that kind of money, I can, if I buy 2 comic books, that's the price of a movie ticket.
Right.
Why don't I go see a movie instead?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I think they have to look at their value at this point, as opposed to when I was growing up. I used to buy comic books for 75 cents. Then it became $1, which I think was kind of nice too. You get $10 as an allowance every week. You can buy 10 comics. In a month, you can read 40 comic books.
Right.
Nowadays, $4.99. Comic book. Kids' allowance is still kind of about the same. $10, $20. They buy 2 comics, 4 comics.
It's not going to get you very far.
Yeah, you might as well save your money a little bit. You can buy the video game.
Right.
Yeah, so I think what they're competing is also value for their dollar, and they're not able to do that.
Sure, and that's one of the reasons why streaming services are such a unique and interesting way to solve these issues.
Oh, yeah.
If you can be able to put them all in one place and pay a flat fee,
sure,
people can be able to consume your content in a great way. And in general, you can actually draw a wider crowd and audience to your work.
Oh, yeah. But here's something else I think that's very different from even the way streaming services are operating compared to comic books. Streaming services, first, is subscription based. So like you say, you pay about $9.99. You can watch hundreds of stuff. You can kind of do that with Marvel, but the problem is with Marvel compared to modern streaming services that modern streaming services are constantly putting in new products. Sometimes it's not even stuff they've created. They're able to license and get all sorts of property that's popular right now. If you're Marvel, you're only able to kind of do that with your own books. If you're DC, only able to do it with your own books. And it doesn't feel like you're getting that kind of value for your dollar either.
Sure.
Yeah, because you go to Netflix, it's not just all Netflix produced shows. They have all sorts of stuff. That's not even produced by themselves. That's older TV shows that they can kind of grab. The cartoons, that anime content they can put in. Marvel and DC are not able to do that. They're not able to cater to a wide range of audience.
Well, yeah, and you have to think about this too. Even when I was watching Netflix and I was trying to go through all the Marvel shows on Netflix, it was a little difficult at the beginning to figure out which one to start with next.
Yes.
Simply because there were so many that were in the same universe.
Yeah.
And so let's say you drop everything into the same universe for comics and you put it into a streaming service. It's a little bit daunting.
It's a little daunting, yes. And also, comic book, according to Marvel and DC, is only one genre, superhero. Streaming service, documentary. I like documentary. I watch a lot of documentaries on Netflix. Not so much into comedy, so I don't really jump into that. But people who love comedy has a huge selection of comedy.
Yeah.
Crime drama, action, horror. You can find anything in that entire streaming site. You got to Marvel run their own subscription service. You're still only getting superhero property.
Yeah.
And that's about it. They don't cater to people who reads manga now. They don't cater to people who, likes sort of independent comic book stuff, the weirder stuff, or even just newspaper strips. Let's say, I want to read all the Garfield strips. Can't go to Marvel and get their subscription for it.
Sure. And, that's one of the issues we're trying to address by putting out so many different kinds of properties and ones with every different kind of genre. We hope to be able to galvanize a larger audience and sort of bring them to read our books and sort of learn to appreciate what we're working on.
Yeah. Well, it's an effort we're making. We try not to be one-noted, which I think is the biggest problem with any industry right now. They just stick to one thing. And if that thing is not working, you're done for. So, for us, it's an experiment right now. We're, of course, hoping to make it a successful business in the process. And we're hoping to avoid some of the mistakes that Marvel is making.
Sure, yeah. So if you guys want to help support us in this project, definitely go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel here below. Additionally, take the time and go ahead and take a look at the comics that we have on our site, brushpix.com. We have about 6 different properties on there at the moment and over 25 books. So
yeah, and we're going to be rolling more out in the coming month or so and hopefully, increase the different type of content we provide for you.
Absolutely. So during this difficult time for coronavirus, we would definitely appreciate any support that you guys could provide us.
Yes. Well, we hope you can enjoy what we have to offer, and everyone stay safe, and we hope to see you again next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.